Did the deities come first or the mantras?
So the thing is, the mantra is the deity. It is the energy. And the forms is what was revealed to the rishis. That's how they depicted it. But basically, because they say the devatas, they have a mantra sharira. Their body is the mantra. And in the Vedas, there is a nice story also where at some point they covered themselves with chandas, with the rhythm for the Vedic mantras, the intonation, because they wanted to hide from death. But then death is very smart. But the point there is that if you don't know the proper intonation, pronunciation, you cannot see the devata. No? That makes it complete. So the mantra, yes, the pronunciation has to be proper, the intonation has to be proper. Then you get access to those energies. But then in the West, I tell people, so there are these different energies and we can use it for different purposes. And the beauty is that then usually one of the mantras that I feel is both very accessible and at the same time which is very potent is Om Namah Shivaya. So I explain to them some of the benefits of the mantra, how they can chant it, and then we chant together 108 times. I actually make them do that. And then...
Can you talk about the mantra?
Yeah. But then they get the experience. No, it's amazing. So what I usually explain to them is that, okay, why this mantra is so useful. And I go a little bit into Ayurveda, into Jyotish, into Vastu Shastra, because Na, Ma, Shi, Va, Ya, these 5 sounds are connected to the 5 aspects of Shiva that are known as the Pancha Brahma, his 5 faces. And these 5 forms of Shiva, they are called Sadyojata, Vamadeva, Aghora, Tatpurusha, and Ishana. Now, each of these aspects of Lord Shiva governs one of the elements, the Pancha Mahabhuta, that this creation is made up of. So I tell them that from the Vedic perspective, one way to look at this creation is that it is made up of these 5 elements in subtle form, combinations, permutations, including our body and mind. And these forms of Shiva are the Adhishtata, the ones that rule it. So through this mantra, what we do, we invoke these different aspects of Shiva, their blessing, who govern these elements to balance it. And we add Om. Om is the sound of creation, the vibration of consciousness itself. So then you align those 5 elements with consciousness, it brings a harmony. So there is something, about this. And there are many things, but that has made me fall so much in love. Not just that, also that part recognition, but this ancient knowledge and this wisdom, whether we call it Sanatana Dharma or the Vedic tradition, or it has so much power. And I've seen that also when you want to learn these things, because there may be many people who are keen to learn, many are seeking. I've seen whether it is Jyotish, astrology, whether it is Ayurveda, whether it is knowledge of yoga, of Vedanta, Upanishads, or anything. If you have a proper teacher like a guru, an acharya, and you have a parampara, the tradition, that again takes it to a very different level. Because I've seen that this knowledge is so vast that one, you need all the help you can get. But when there is a blessing of a parampara behind it, when the guru is there or a lineage of gurus is there, that will carry you. And I've seen, because I meet so many people, and sometimes they ask me, we have a conversation, how in such few years you have learned so many things. Many things, even I don't know where it came from. Like you said, something will open up, but I've seen that when that parampara is there behind it, that really makes a difference. And if you see the scriptures, everywhere they say the same thing. Learn this from a guru. Learn this from a teacher. Because they've only put some of the things. They don't put all the things. Some things you have to get through that. But it's not just the knowledge. It's the consciousness behind it that works. When someone is giving you the knowledge from their own experience, then it hits a very different chord. So, yeah.
I've spoken about this on the show earlier, but the first time I sat for an Om chanting meditation. Okay, so when you say the word Om, it has an impact on the environment, but it especially has an impact on your own body, on your mind, your throat box, your voice box, your soul. Eventually, and this is very Indian urban perspective, you begin to open yourself up to mantras like Om Namah Shivaya. Now imagine if saying Om loudly has this kind of an impact on the environment. If you're saying it silently, what kind of impact is it having on your internal environment? That's something you figure only through experience. Which is why, again, if you try finding the limitation in mantras, you'll become the limitation yourself. Just flow with it. Execute, experience it, and then come to your own conclusions.
But Om, there is something interesting about Om, because especially when we talk about the Om Namah Shivaya, like this, the Panchakshari Namah Shivaya, this is what known as the Panchakshari. It is a mantra with 5 aksharas. And then usually we add Om to it. But then Om itself is called the Sukshma Panchakshari. It also has 5 parts. So from Shiva, Lord Shiva, it said first Om came. He came, that it's one of his forms, that pure vibration, that pure consciousness. So you have the A, U, the Ma sound, and then there is the Nada and the Bindu. This is a bit technical for people, but there's 5 parts to it. But then they say that if you do the japa of Om, especially the mental japa, this is actually only recommended for people who are really ready to leave everything, including their body. So they say for anybody who is living, the mental japa of Om, 2-3 times is okay. But like proper japa, it's actually not recommended. They say you do Om Namah Shivaya. Because that, they say it will cut everything. So not just your worldly stuff, but everything, your body. And the thing is, you still need to eat, no? And I'm sure you want to eat at least something. So it's interesting, but it also shows how powerful, how powerful.
I'm going to frame this question in a particular way, but obviously I'm asking you something deeper. Why is it that sometimes when you look at someone, you know that person is a Shiva worshipper? There's a commonality. And I see this with a lot of Shiva worshippers recognizing each other. And it's a stark difference from when you meet someone who worships Krishna. Both are positive in very different ways.
Yeah.
But at least with Shiva worshippers, like the moment I saw you outside, I was like, he's like me.
Apna.
A little sense of detachment. When I see a Krishna worshipper, they bring a lot of freshness and bliss with them. And I love being in the freshness and bliss. But with Shiva worshippers, there's a sense of mutual detachment from each other, from sansar in general, the environment. I do believe that when you chant mantras internally, when mantras become a part of your breath, they say you start looking like the deity. But what they're truly trying to say is that you're gradually, very
Those
slowly,
qualities,
you're becoming the deity very gradually. How do you explain this to the West?
Like you may be very successful now. At some point you'll die. At some point people will forget again, So it doesn't mean you don't make a difference. But if you look from a bigger perspective, even this whole planet is a particle of dust, We are really not that important. We think we're very important. But just like there are so many people crawling on this planet, you have so many bacteria in you. They die every day. They get born again. They may think they're very important, but we don't even know they're there. So Shiva has that kind of detachment. Now, a Krishna Bhakt, he will have a different flavor. A Devi Bhakt, again, will have a different flavor. And there are stories, you may have come across those as well, of saints and sages in this country, probably other parts of the world as well, who had such a strong devotion to one of the devatas that even physically their body started reflecting some of those qualities, where their body started even growing into that form, where they started looking, like for example, I think there was a saint at some point, he was such a devotee of the mother. At some point, he got breasts,
Ramakrishna Paramans.
Yeah, there are a few examples, but the same way, there are such stories where you can see that when it becomes so strong. So if that is possible, then for the mind and the emotions, definitely.